Here I am, getting myself into something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't really stop to question how labor-intensive the coming weeks would be. I just started pulling off the trim to see where it would take me. It's my first time doing any of this. I like a Buick because they're a good blend of being modest and cheap while still being tasteful. Somehow, this could be a res rocket, and at the same time, it could belong to the world's cheapest CEO. It is something of a mothership connection chariot. But that's not an educated take. I'm just a 20-something-year-old, and to clarify, this is my only vehicle. Somebody sold it to me for around $1,500 US. By a stroke of incredible good luck, the odometer is only at 100,000 miles. But it is in wrong side of the Detroit River gray. And that vinyl top could be worse, but it's ready to be rejuvenated. I don't know if there's a better way to remove these rubber strips, because they just curled up on me and gave way to an avalanche of dust. I tried to divide and conquer the vinyl by going after it in sections. It took more elbow grease than anticipated, but nothing I couldn't handle. Once I got through it all, it looked like a sheep, and I wasn't too keen on driving in this sheep-mobile. I didn't realize at the time, but what I was looking at was not good, and might have been avoided if I used another method to pull it off. Or it was just a 7-2 hand with the type of glue, the age of the glue, or the climate it was exposed to. I discovered the glue remover solution I bought wasn't much help, because it couldn't penetrate the layer of fabric that was deeply embedded in the glue. This fabric isn't on all types of vinyl tops, but it is on this one, and the one I'm going to be installing. Something like acetone might have burned right through, but I didn't want to buy anything that turned out to be ineffective. I put this aside for now to get to the paint prepping. Listen up. At this very moment, there is an asteroid headed towards the Earth, representing imminent doom for millions. The only way you can save yourself is by liking and writing a comment in the comment section to enlist my divine powers. Quick splash and dash before sanding. First, I went after the small patches of rust with 60 grit sandpaper. Then I went and scuffed everything, vertically and horizontally, with 400 grit sandpaper. I never claimed to be a hard worker, but I didn't rub this dealership logo all the way off, and that was a big mistake, because it's still there. This car is 34 years old. Who knows if they're even still in business? In case it wasn't clear at this point, we're not going for perfection here. This is my first time doing this, and it's more to improve the look in a general sense. Nobody's going to be surveying this car for imperfections. If you're looking for a tutorial, I'm glad you chose this one, but you want to go listen to experienced perspectives as well. Now it's time to tape off all the trim and whatnot. Probably could have used some fancy white man tool to pull those off, but I didn't feel like it. This is just 2 thin and sketchy coats of primer, because the primer's gray and the car is already gray. You might be wondering if I don't know better than to not be wearing a mask for this. The reason is that this is my car. If I was employed in some shop doing this, it would be a different story. But since this is mine, the dust will be good to my whistling pipes. Scuffed everything vertically and horizontally again with 1000 grit. I know that everyone says the use of rattle cans is an egregious crime against humanity. So why would I do such a thing? Well, I didn't want to buy an air compressor. I've been kind of nomadic, traveling light. No residence of mine has been permanent for a long time. And renting an air compressor is just too much messing around. But in case you haven't heard yet, they all say it is inherently better by leaps and bounds to use one of those with a paint gun. I don't know why, but for some reason I thought 8 cans would be enough, and if there's extra I'll just drink the rest of it. At that point, every store in town was cleaned out of this color, so I had to go on an excursion to go get more. It got rained on that night, which was not predicted in the weather forecast. I went out in the rain and tried wet sanding the drippage from the first coat. That was a rookie mistake that ended up showing through the second coat. I did 1 coat of clear coat, followed by a second coat of clear coat. And while it was drying, I painted these gray trim pieces black for the black final top. Then I had extra clear coat, which was known to be a lousy product, so I did a 3rd coat. I used a total of 2 tall primer cans, 15 dark teal cans, and 7 cans of clear coat. I should have kept my mask on to remove the tape, because I was seeing pink elephants. For teal, it looks closer to green than I expected, with not a whole lot of blue in there, but I do like the color. Then I threw some black paint on the front bumper, which had gotten yellow marks on it somehow. At this time, I had to take a good long look at my blurred reflection in the paint to renounce the shortcuts I've been taking and redeem myself by polishing this thing. I was apprehensive because with the driveway being in a gravel alley that gets relatively significant traffic, it was a dirt magnet, and there was bound to be some that had worked its way into the paint. And wet sanding is a technique of scuffing the paint, then bringing it back with buffing. It's some kind of sacrilegious alchemy.
Satanic black magic.
I went around the car doing a few passes on everything. I wanted to keep going until I ran out of the buffing compound, but my cheap orbital gadget died. I wasn't gonna bother trying to claim the warranty because when I opened it, there was a big sticker that said use a high gauge extension cord, and I guess I did ignore that and use the wrong cord. I lost the orbital fair and square, so I had to polish by hand, Mennonite style. I don't think I did quite enough. It does look better, but I can't see my reflection too good. Or anybody else's, for that matter. Now I was forced to come to terms with the fact that the glue wasn't going to scrape itself off the roof. I did contemplate just throwing the new vinyl on top of that. I've seen some cock and bull story on the internet that any protrusions will show right through. I think that's only applicable to thinner types of vinyl, but there's also the matter of adhesion. It might not last as long glued to the old glue. So I invested some 43 painstaking hours into this fool's errand. That's right, 43 hours, single-handed. I spent more than a standard work week peeling it, 1/16 of an inch at a time. It was a real pain in the you-know-what, though it could be therapeutic at times. After all the fabric was gone, I used what was left of my solution. And would you believe it, when it ran out and I substituted glass cleaner, that worked a whole lot better. There were a few patches of glue that I couldn't persuade to come off, so I suppose they'll just be entombed in there. Now look at how that glistens and shines. It's reflecting a mirror image. Next, I scuffed the roof with 400 grit sandpaper so that it wouldn't outshine and disgrace the painting ability that I demonstrated. Also, so it's more adhesive with the glue. This guy showed up to commend me for using his color scheme on my car. Yeah, I got a wild sunburn. Well, I dropped around $400 US on the paint. I don't want to say how much I paid for the rag though. Not everybody is crazy about vinyl tops. It occurred to me that some could see it as akin to an insecure person wearing a shirt at a swimming pool, but I chose to see it as a vest for the car. Locating the center on the backside. They sent me a lot of excess, so I just eyeballed a closer size. Then I found the center at the front. It wasn't until after opening the contact cement, it occurred to me I didn't have a stirring stick, so I went and grabbed a tree branch, and that worked just fine. Throw it over and run like hell to get it straightened out. In terms of roof coverage, this is about as simple as vinyl tops get. Some of them go under the back windshield too. Some of them have 2 seams. My cell phone died, but the other side was the same process. Only I made the mistake of putting glue on the seam, which got it caught sideways in some places. I should have known better. I don't know why I did that. Be careful with the seams. At long last, it's time to put the trim back on. 1 month after it was all removed. I probably got too rough with these parts when taking them off. They were attached with clips that mostly broke, so now they're mostly just held on with glue. On the other side, I cut the vinyl short and had to patch it up, which is a bit of a shame. I also had to do a patch above the passenger door. This also looks bad, and I'm not proud of it. I thought about throwing the twisted rubber from under the windshield trim in the trash, but I guess I had this crazy idea that screwing around with glue could restore it somewhat, and I was surprised that it eventually kind of worked. But I might have to go back and add more glue to it still. Seeing as these trim pieces are all warped, I've thought about replacing them with some of the excess vinyl to make sideburns for the windshield, and with a strip of aluminum on the other sides. Not sure yet. Weigh in on this idea in the comments. Now, here's the finished product. In this footage, it looks like you're seeing creases on the roof, but that's mostly just the sun shining on the texture of it.
You know, if this beauty was a woman, I'd have to break my 20 and under rule.
Man, I'll just stick to driving, all right?
It's got an ashtray. You don't see much of those anymore. I'm way out of my element talking about cars. I just haven't been alive long enough on this earth. I was never really extremely into cars, although I'm more well-versed nowadays. What I can do is just talk about the broader design aspect in today's world. Before this, I had a 2005 Buick LaCrosse. That one was even cheaper. It came with one of those Sikh amulets mounted on the mirror and some sort of East Indian rap band CD. This one actually just has a tape player, no CD player. I would expect this type of car to come with like a Cool in the Gang tape or something like that. Unfortunately, it didn't come with any tape. Anyways, that one got its passenger side smashed. It was silver, and the replacement door was dark gray. A neighbor asked me one day if I had thought about getting it painted. I said not interested. The gray door adds character. And it was true, and it got me thinking that a lot of what makes modern cars truly unique is really just damage and whatnot. So the insurmountable complexity of the bodywork protocol is due in part to the subject, because you've got your work cut out for you if you're painting something that isn't neat to begin with. Lately, I've started to give new neighborhoods the benefit of the doubt. I would never buy one of those houses where they all look the same myself. They're a complete monoculture now, but you can argue that in 10 to 15 years, the houses will start to get more diverse and interesting. The same can't be said about these new cars. They're not going to shapeshift. You can't take the Oriental look off an Oriental car. You can't even take the Oriental look off a vehicle built in Michigan in recent years. I've been noticing new cars have these light up horizontal lines, LED lights, between the headlights. And in theory, that could be really cool. Maybe some variations look good, but most of what I've been seeing has been stupid and god-awful. I saw it coming up in the distance and made it for a Pacific Rim export before I got close enough to see the make. And of course, it was one of those Hyundais or whatever. Crazy to think that right now, at this very moment,
a grown man somewhere is having a tantrum over a scratch, over his plain gray car built in Guangzhou being scratched. Like, it's gray. That's just primer. Just because he's paying $80,000 for it with 4.99% interest bi-weekly payments. Spending 110 grand doesn't make something inherently beautiful. I just painted this, but it could get scratched today and I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I'm not gonna get into the matter of insurance right now because I'd be incredibly long-winded talking about that. Maybe another time. Every big work of art will have imperfections, and on a subject that is already more innately beautiful, the imperfections become excusable. You earn the privilege to be informal in some areas. The ladies call it, the leading psychologists are calling it, pretty privilege. I've drawn all kinds of things, and with a subject that is like densely detailed, you make a mistake, the mistakes just get swallowed up by the drawing if it's really detailed, like almost effortlessly. On the other hand, I've got a great big tattoo of a map on my back and it looks good, but some mistakes were made and trying to conceal them was a far more difficult thing to do because it's a map, so it calls for more precision. Same thing goes for your plain new cars. And the wide license plates used in most of the world outside North America, even that is enough to ruin the whole thing. Yes, my work was far from perfect, but the long and short of it is I had a gray car, and now I have a sharp-looking teal car.